The Dallas Cowboys are hitting a level that almost feels unreal right now. They were counted out early, doubted for weeks, and buried under questions after a shaky start. But out of nowhere, this team has turned into something nobody was ready for. Back-to-back wins against the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs have flipped the entire season on its head. And the shocking part is that this surge does not look lucky or random. It looks controlled. It looks intentional. It looks like a team that has finally discovered what it really is. Fans saw flashes before, but nobody expected this kind of punch to land in late November. Something inside this locker room has changed, and the timing could not be bigger. What nobody is talking about is how close this team was to falling apart earlier in the year. Missed tackles, slow starts, breakdowns against the run, and questions about direction were all hanging over them. But the moment this group hit the back half of the schedule, everything sharpened. Dak Prescott started controlling games with a calm and confidence that felt different. CeeDee Lamb bounced back from drops and turned into a steady spark again. George Pickens delivered plays that shifted momentum when it mattered most. And the new wave on defense started showing the strength that Jerry Jones wanted when he reshaped this roster. The Cowboys are not just winning, they're answering every doubt that pushed them into the ground earlier in the season. And here is where the story gets even more interesting. This new version of the Cowboys is not built on one hot week. It is built on choices that looked risky, trades that were questioned, and adjustments that took time to click. Those choices are now the reason this team feels dangerous heading into December. The question is simple. How did a team that looked shaken a month ago suddenly turn into a group no one wants to face? The answer starts with understanding how everything began to change behind the scenes, and that leads us straight into what was happening during the early chaos of the season. But before we get into that, hit that like and subscribe button for more Cowboys and all the NFL content. Let's aim for 100 likes on this video. The Dallas Cowboys did not wake up one morning as a calm, confident contender. For weeks, they looked like a team stuck in a bad loop. Run gaps were wide open, tackles were late, and every strong ground attack seemed to find a new way to punish them. The opener against the Philadelphia Eagles turned into a long night for this front, with Jalen Hurts and Saquon Barkley controlling drives and forcing Dallas to chase the game from behind. Then came stretches where Russell Wilson, Jordan Love, and rookie Caleb Williams all had big days that kept the Cowboys' defense on the field far too long. It was not one bad quarter or one bad matchup. It felt like a pattern that would sink the entire season if nothing changed. The confusing part was that the message from Jerry Jones had been clear for years. He kept saying they had to control the line of scrimmage, stop the run first, and still find ways to pressure the quarterback. Yet early in this campaign, the reality did not match the vision. Trading Micah Parsons to Green Bay became the lightning rod for every critic. People questioned why you would move on from one of the most explosive pass rushers in football when your defense was already under strain. At the same time, the offense was doing everything it could to keep them afloat, with Dak Prescott firing, CeeDee Lamb creating separation, George Pickens stretching the field, and Javonte Williams fighting for yards. But no matter how many points they scored, if the defense could not get off the field, every game felt like it was hanging by a thread. That pressure is exactly what forced the Cowboys to reset their approach instead of pretending everything was fine. They could not hide from the tape anymore. Missed fits, soft edges, and quarterbacks standing too comfortably in the pocket demanded a real solution, not just sideline speeches. Inside the building, they doubled down on fixing the core of the roster instead of chasing flashy moves outside the trenches. That decision is what opened the door for the bold front office choices that followed, the defensive line rebuild around new interior power, and the quiet roster tweaks that started turning this chaos into real control, which is where the story of this turnaround truly starts to shift. When the Dallas Cowboys started reshaping this roster, it did not look safe, it looked bold. Moving on from a star pass rusher was only part of the story. The real plan showed up when they started loading the middle of the defense with power and size. Bringing in Quinnen Williams to line up with Kenny Clark and Osa Odighizuwa turned the heart of this line into a wall that offenses now have to respect on every snap. Instead of relying on one edge star to save them, Dallas built a core that forces double teams inside, clogs running lanes, and pushes the pocket straight back into the quarterback. That change alone has started to flip games that used to slip away at the line of scrimmage. The ripple effect of that interior strength is showing up all across the defense. When offenses slide protection toward Quinnen Williams, it opens cleaner lanes for players like Jadavian Clowney and Donovan Wilson to attack from different angles. DeMarvion Overshown looks more free to read and react because he is not taking on fullbacks in open space every play. Even when the box score does not show huge sack numbers, you see holding calls, rush throws, and drive stalling because the pocket is never calm. This is exactly the kind of front Jerry Jones has talked about for years, one that can slow the run and still make life hard for top quarterbacks without needing a perfect call every time. On the other side of the ball, those front office decisions were just as aggressive. Trading for George Pickens gave Dak Prescott a true partner next to CeeDee Lamb, and that changed how defenses are forced to line up. Drafting Tyler Booker and trusting him with Cooper and Tyler Smith in the interior has helped keep the protection sturdy while still opening lanes for Javonte Williams and Malik Davis. Now the roster looks like it was built with one clear idea: surround the quarterback with real weapons and protect him with a strong interior while the defense leans on a heavy front instead of hope. All of that sets the stage for the most important piece of this surge: the way Dak Prescott has taken this new support system and stepped into a different level of control over this offense. The turning point for the Dallas Cowboys offense starts with how Dak Prescott is seeing the field right now. Every dropback feels like he already knows the answer before the defense reveals the question. When Kansas City sent that corner pressure on the weak side, he read it instantly, hit his back foot, and launched the deep ball to CeeDee Lamb without hesitation. Even with a hand in his face, he trusted the matchup and gave his receiver a chance to flip the game. Plays like that are not guesswork. They show a quarterback who understands leverage, spacing, and timing at a level he has earned through pressure and experience. What stands out most is how calm he looks when everything around him breaks down. On the touchdown to Javonte Williams, the first read was covered, the second was late, and the rush collapsed the pocket. Instead of forcing something into traffic, he slid up, held the defenders with his body language, and waited until they stepped toward him. The moment they committed, he flipped the ball over the top for a score that only works if the quarterback refuses to panic. That is the difference between surviving a play and owning it. Prescott is not just executing the playbook, he is controlling it. His eye manipulation has become one of the Cowboys' biggest hidden weapons. When he looks to the middle of the field before going back to George Pickens or CeeDee Lamb, it freezes both safeties and creates the one-on-one matchups Dallas wants. Those throws down the sideline, the timing routes over the middle, the fades at the goal line, none of those are luck. They happen because he moves defenders with nothing but a glance. And the way he is operating right now sets up a bigger question. What happens when you take a locked-in quarterback and surround him with two elite receivers who can take over games on any drive? The answer is coming as we break into the power of the Lamb and Pickens connection. The moment defenses try to slow down the Dallas Cowboys, they run into the same issue every week. You shade help towards CeeDee Lamb, and George Pickens punishes single coverage. You roll a safety toward Pickens, and Lamb wins with clean releases and sharp routes that never look forced. This pairing has become the pressure point that cracks even the strongest game plans. Lamb's bounce back after the early season frustration showed exactly why he is trusted in every high moment, and Pickens continues to deliver plays that feel like they should not be possible. Together, they create a level of stress on defenses that keeps coordinators guessing from the first snap to the final drive. What makes this duo so dangerous is how different their strengths are. Lamb works with sudden separation, inside leverage, and timing that syncs perfectly with Dak Prescott. Pickens attacks defenders with physicality, body control, and an ability to snatch throws that look uncatchable. When he hurdles a defender or turns a short end breaker into a long gain, he changes the entire rhythm of the drive. There are possessions where the defense does everything right, covers the first read, forces Prescott to his second, and it still does not matter. Pickens can win late in the route, and Lamb can punish with yards after the catch. That balance is impossible to fake. And just when defenses think they have solved the puzzle, the Cowboys add another layer. Jake Ferguson keeps showing up on key downs, turning tough catches into drive extenders. Even depth pieces like Flournoy step in and make their opportunities count. Every piece around this duo works because Lamb and Pickens tilt coverage in their direction on almost every snap. The next challenge for any defense is dealing with a front that is finally matching that offensive firepower. And that brings us to the shift that has given this team a new identity on the defensive side of the ball. The real surprise with the Dallas Cowboys is how their defense has started answering pressure moments with a steadiness that did not exist earlier in the season. Opponents used to punish them on the ground, but now teams are running into a front that refuses to budge. Games that once slipped away because of long rushing drives are turning into stalled possessions and short punts. When you hold a strong rushing attack to limited gains and force them into second and long, you change the entire tone of the game. That is exactly what happened against the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, where the Cowboys took stretches of time and completely closed the scoring windows those offenses depend on. What shifted everything is how the interior has become the anchor instead of the weak point. Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and Osa Odighizuwa collapse pockets before quarterbacks can settle. Their impact does not always show in the stat sheet, but the flags tell the story. Holding penalties, rushed throws, and forced rollouts are all signs that the line is winning snap after snap. That pressure creates chances for players like Jadeveon Clowney to finish on the edge and for Donovan Wilson to jump into throwing lanes with confidence. Even in games where top quarterbacks like Patrick Mahomes make highlight plays, the Cowboys' defense still finds stretches where they keep the scoreboard stuck. The biggest test for this group has been staying sharp despite injuries around the secondary. Losing Trevon Diggs, then seeing Daron Bland and Malik Hooker battle through in-game setbacks would break most units. Instead, depth corners like Stewart stepped in and battled through tough matchups without letting drives snowball. That willingness to compete gives the Cowboys' offense the extra possessions they need to tilt games late. It is not a perfect defense, but it is finally the kind that helps you win instead of forcing you to play catch-up. And now that they have stabilized on both sides of the ball, the next question becomes simple. How does this growth translate into the final stretch of their schedule, where every matchup carries real postseason weight? The Dallas Cowboys are stepping into a closing stretch that can shift everything about their season. Every matchup ahead carries a different challenge, but none of them feel out of reach the way they once did. The first test sits with the Detroit Lions, a team with real offensive punch but a defense that has lost its early season edge. Recent games showed them giving up long drives to quarterbacks who were not even expected to control tempo. That alone makes this showdown a moment where the Cowboys can send another message about who they have become. If they stay disciplined and avoid the early lapses that hurt them in September, this game can swing heavily in their direction. Next comes a home matchup with the Minnesota Vikings, a team that features star receivers in Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, but is still guided by rookie quarterback J.J. McCarthy. This type of matchup fits right into what the Cowboys' defense has been building toward. If the front can pressure a young passer and force him into quick decisions, the secondary will have chances to make plays on the ball. The weapons on Minnesota's offense are real, but the Cowboys have already shown they can keep elite playmakers from taking over if the pocket collapses early. That formula gives them a clear path to control this game without needing a shootout. Then the schedule closes with familiar tension. The Los Angeles Chargers bring Justin Herbert, a quarterback who can make every throw, but they also enter this stretch with both starting tackles out of the lineup. That makes this a trench game where the Cowboys' defensive front can directly dictate the flow. After that comes the Washington Commanders, a team Dallas handled well earlier in the year, followed by a rivalry finish against the New York Giants, who always bring unpredictability to the final weeks. None of these games are automatic, but each one fits a strength the Cowboys have developed. And with momentum rising, the final question becomes whether they can carry this surge into a postseason run that felt impossible just a month ago. The Dallas Cowboys are no longer a team trying to survive the season. They are a group that has rebuilt itself in real time, turned early problems into late strength, and stepped into December with a confidence that feels earned. The offense is powered by a version of Dak Prescott that looks sharper and calmer than any point in his career. The connection with CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens gives Dallas the type of firepower that makes defenses uncomfortable before the ball is even snapped. And the run game, led by Javonte Williams and supported by a physical interior line, gives them balance that was missing in previous years. This is an identity built on control, toughness, and the belief that they can respond to any momentum shift. What makes this surge even more meaningful is the timing. Beating strong opponents late in the year is different from catching teams off guard in September. Wins over the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs came when both opponents were fighting for their own playoff paths. Those moments shape how a team sees itself going forward. The interior pressure from Quinnen Williams, Kenny Clark, and Osa Odigizua has redefined the defensive ceiling, while players like Jadeveon Clowney and Donovan Wilson have stepped into roles that complement that strength. Even with injuries in the secondary, the Cowboys have shown they can hold their ground, swing momentum with key stops, and keep elite quarterbacks from taking over. The truth now is simple. If this version of the Cowboys reaches the postseason, nobody is walking into that matchup with comfort. They have proven they can answer adversity, fix weaknesses, and find clutch plays on both sides of the ball. A month ago, the conversation was about survival. Now the conversation is about potential. The question hanging in the air is not whether Dallas can compete in January, but how far they can push if this rhythm continues. And that possibility is what makes this run feel like the start of something instead of the end of a comeback.